Hey everyone, it's Amanda Radke for another episode of the Heart of Rural America podcast, the show where we highlight great people with big hearts doing wonderful things in rural America. Today, it's a special day, and I know I say that every time I have a new guest on because I love all the people I get to meet across this country when I'm traveling. But this guest is like, I don't even know if we'll get through this show without crying, quite honestly. We talked about it before the show. This one's a special one. If you guys have been following my social media for any length of time, you know that Tyler and I are foster parents and we're actively involved in helping vulnerable kids in our communities. And with that, you get to meet a lot of wonderful people who have a heart for kids. And today's guest is one of them. So, Jessie Grote, welcome to the show. Another foster mom. I'm just so honored you would take the time to be on here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, and it's one of those topics I feel like if you haven't entered into that space, it's hard to understand. I know when Tyler and I in 2019 felt that call from the Lord that you need to do this, it didn't really make
Mhm.
sense. And we had a lot of naysayers and people saying, you're crazy. Why would you uproot your life like that? And I'm hoping to pin Tyler down at some point to get him on to talk about our story. But tell me how you got into foster care. What
Yeah,
got you and your husband? You're ranching. You're on the farm. I guess tell us who you are, what you do, and what led you to foster care.
absolutely. So, my husband and I got married in 2014, and actually 2019, about the same time. Amanda and I kind of knew each other. We had the same groups in college, which is
Yeah.
wild to think how long ago that was. But I just kind of noticed we were going through some of the same things with some of our experiences, so I wanted to reach out. But so I had gotten through or got into foster care, I guess, or we did. We talked about it a few times, so just adoption. We were really struggling to have kiddos, just fertility issues, which seems to be kind of similar, I think, with our
Yep.
stories a little bit too.
Us
And
too.
so
Yep.
we had talked about it quite a bit, never really did it. And then finally, the spring of 2019, it was honestly calving season. We live in a very small town in Northwest Nebraska. And calving season, and we were like, this is it. Like you said, the Lord's calling us. It's time. Something has to happen. We have so much love to give. It has been, at that point, it had been 5 years of trying and multiple miscarriages and just really trying to figure out where we were supposed to give this love and how we were supposed to give this love. So we decided to get licensed. We would run down when I got home from work. I was working an hour away. We'd drive an hour. I'd come pick up my husband an hour, then we'd drive back down, but another hour like south of us and come back. And it was wild and crazy, but we got through it. But that was really the big reason we started is we felt like we just had so much love. We're like, we know we love kids. We want to help them. And we want to just kind of be a part of this bigger plan. And we didn't know what that plan was. We thought maybe at some point we could adopt out of the system, but we really didn't know for sure how that worked. So we really just kept our minds open. And that summer, actually, before we were even officially licensed, we got the call for 4 kiddos. We took them all, which was wild and crazy. I was still working full time, an hour from home at the time. And let me tell you, that was woof. It
Yep.
was time to just take a step back and figure out like, okay, what are we going to do? So we had those 4 kiddos. Initially, we were told they were potentially up for adoption. And then about 5 or 6 days in, they said, so we were just kind of getting into the groove of things, figuring it out. And we were told that actually this weekend, could you guys go take them to who's probably going to be adopting them? So we
Okay.
did, and everything went really great and good. And they ended up leaving us about 2 or 3 days later. So they were only with us for about 10 days, but wow, the impact in those 10 days, it was, oh my goodness. I remember so it was 4 kiddos under 5, which was insane.
Yep.
So we went from 0 to 4.
0.
Yep, 0 to 4.
And like a couple still in diapers, or how many were still in
Uh-huh.
diapers?
Just the one was still in
Oh, just the
diapers.
one.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
And
Easy.
there were twin boys in there. I mean, it was wild. It was so beautiful, but my gosh, it was wild. But the memories we have from that, just those 10 days was, we both just felt like this is right. There were parts of it that were tough, of course, being
Yep.
told they were up for adoption, which they were, that we could maybe adopt, different things like that. But I remember at one point, the oldest one, so the 5-year-old, he had said to me when I kind of had mentioned that they were going to be going elsewhere, going to meet somebody, he said, so you guys are like gifts from God that take care of kids. And I just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even believe it. I thought for a little 5-year-old I have goosebumps, honestly, just
I know.
remembering that. It was just such a special moment. And I remember journaling it. And um, recently I was just looking through a journal and flipped open to that page. And I was like, yeah, that's what we were. Like our goal is to protect kids And that's what we did. God's put us here to protect these babies and keep them safe because they just weren't in a safe place. So it was just the most beautiful thing. And I feel like that like solidified that, yep, this was the right decision for us to be in this role. So those sweet babies left. They were adopted by the family that they went to, and I actually still keep in contact with them. I got to go in the midst of COVID, the beginning of COVID, when everything was shut down.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we live in a pretty rural area, so things were a little bit looser at the beginning still, which was a big blessing because I got to go to their court hearing. And it was so funny because these kids kept looking at me and they just kept, like, you could tell they knew who I was, but they didn't know who I was. And I don't know, it was crazy and it was beautiful and it was hard and it was all the things, but it was still just a really neat experience. So anyways, a few months later, we got a call for 2 more kiddos, and it was a really sticky situation. And they said that from the start, which I think most cases are, right?
Mhm.
But anyways, so we got these kiddos. The one was a little bit older. He was with us for about 6 months, and then he transitioned into a home that had some older kids, which was just a better fit for him.
Sure.
And then also we had a little baby, a little 2-month-old baby at the time. And then, of course, the way it goes, found out we were expecting, like the week we got him. I think it was
Yep.
really wild, just the way that all works too. So pregnant and all the emotions and all the things with that. And we actually had that younger boy for almost 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, which was crazy. And when he was leaving was right when I think your little girl was sleeping as well. So we definitely connected a lot. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing with foster care is we just have so much like support and love for each other. And it is just, you mentioned earlier, like a fellow foster mama. And that's just so true. Like you just go through so much, and I don't know, it's a beautiful thing. And so he was with us for, like I said, about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, actually. And I mean, we did everything with him. Like we watched all those first steps and first moments and the first bites of food and the first haircut. And you don't think about a lot of that stuff until you're the one seeing it. And it's not like the mom. That's what one of our kids in church
Yep.
actually said that. Like, where's he at Christmas one year? And we said, oh, he's with his mom. She goes, oh, with his mom. I was like, I kind of like that. Yeah.
I
Like
do
that's
like
mom.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
'Cause
and I'm
we're
his
we're a
mom.
mom for a time too. It's
Yeah.
it's like, they're not yours, but they're
Mhm.
yours. And if you
Yes,
do it right, you love them like they're your own. And
exactly.
but now before we get to, like, the sad part of the
Mhm.
goodbyes, because that's the hardest part of foster care, and
Yeah.
people I'm sure they say it to you all the time too, like, I just
Mhm.
couldn't do
I
foster care
couldn't
because
do it. Yep.
I couldn't say goodbye. But before
Mhm.
I'd like to just kind of roll back to what you talked about teaching those kids about Jesus.
Yeah.
To me, I was thinking about moments where we're planting seeds with these kids.
Mhm.
I always think about that you would hear in the sermon where it's like, how many people can you bring to the faith? How many
Yeah.
people can you share the love and the heart of Jesus?
Mhm.
And to me, I see the 4 kids I have, and I know that one day I'm going to have to answer Jesus. Like, did I do what I needed to do? But
Yeah.
I also think about the seeds that were planted that you and I are never going to get to see come to fruition. Like, just
Mhm.
I would tell myself, when these kids come into our house, they need to know what a safe home looks like, what a loving
Yep.
mom and dad looks like, what a
Mhm.
warm meal at the table shared as a
Yeah.
family looks like.
Yep.
Get to teach them about agriculture, but I better make
Mhm.
darn sure I introduce them to Jesus because this
Yep.
might be the one and only time in their lives that they'll ever be
Mhm.
around someone that tells them Jesus loves them. He is the perfect author. He has the pen. It might look scary right now in your life,
Yeah.
but he's with you through all the ups
Mhm.
and downs. And so I guess my question on the flip side of things, because I know that you have that heart for Jesus too. How has your faith strengthened through foster care?
Oh my gosh. I think you just learn. I honestly got a tattoo literally when we like 2 days after we got these kids, the 2 kids that we knew were going to be long term, excuse me. And it just is part of the Lord's Prayer, and it's thy will be done. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking at the time when I got it, I was like, this is really out of our control, right? There's only so much that we can handle, but we have to have strength. We have to have hope that no matter what happens with the situation, it is what's supposed to happen, whether they stay with us, whether they don't, it just doesn't matter. Like you said, they're in our homes for a short time. So teaching them to love like Jesus, to be kind, to understand, like there are so many things in their life that they can't control, but that God is that bigger picture. He sees it. He knows exactly the path and kind of what's going to happen with them. So, but I definitely think it tested my faith a lot, between the fertility journey that we went through, or infertility journey, I guess, that we went through, and with these kiddos, truly just learning that I know, I don't know, I think it was kind of a stigma sometimes, like when you're going through that fertility thing, that like people don't want to hear that God has a plan. But honestly,
Right.
that's what got me through. That is
Yeah.
completely what got me through. It was like, there's a purpose to this. It, there were so many challenges with fostering, with that whole journey, but knowing no matter what, that he has a plan in this, and
Yep.
he's holding us completely, and truly is like guiding us down that path. And so no matter the challenges, I think it truly just built my faith so much more, that just knowing that it is going to be okay, and that
Yep.
no matter what, these kiddos, we may not agree with it, but they're not ours, right? These kids are his, and he's going to take care of them. We may not agree with how he's taking care of them at the time, right?
God, I
But,
don't like
but he
this at
is.
all.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. This is hard. Of course
Yep.
that's hard.
Yep.
But he's there to support us through that. And
Yep.
and so I every time I look down at my arm, because I put it right where I can see it. Some people are maybe anti-tattoo, but I'm not. and it is just one of the, I don't know, I just think about that all the time, because I just got it right away. And honestly, probably right when I got that tattoo is the same time I got pregnant, and just all those different things. It's like, what a crazy, beautiful journey that he's had planned for us this whole time.
Whole
We
time.
didn't think it would take 6-8 years to have kids,
Right.
in our home. But two, it's like, we've gotten to love 10 babies between our miscarriages and our babies and our foster babies. Like, and that was all part of his perfect plan. And it's made me a way better person, I think, too, just from the challenge, from the struggle. And I think too, from that improved faith, improved relationships with him, with my husband, with
Yep.
all the things, it really just, it affects every part of your life. But it's really a beautiful, beautiful thing that I think he's truly kind of knitted for us too.
That's exactly how I felt going through it too. It was like God uses imperfect people who are going through
Mhm.
hard things themselves, and he says, I'm gonna use you to do something. And
Yeah.
for us, we had gone through the infertility thing. It was 3 years of trying. Ours was kind of opposite though. We went to an adoption meeting. It wasn't foster care, it was an adoption meeting. And then a week
Mhm.
later we found out we were pregnant. Then we had 3 kids. Boom, 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 back to back. Like I'm this old
Mhm.
fertile cow. That's not like it's funny, but I truly believe the Lord, he just put it in Tyler's heart that one day he came
Mhm.
out of his office and said, "Hey, Mandy, we need to foster." And I'm like, I was getting ready to leave for a speech. I had 3 kids, 2 in diapers, like they were under the
Yeah.
age of 4. And I'm like, "You are crazy. Like I am
Right.
stressed out. There is no way possible." But the Lord will have his way.
Mhm.
And so for us, and I probably should save this story for when Tyler's on, but I got on the plane to go to a speech, and the flight movie was Instant Family, which was about foster
So
care.
good.
Great
Yep.
movie with Mark Wahlberg if you haven't seen it. And I always tell people, if you wanna soften your husband's heart to foster
Mhm.
care, have a date night and go watch that movie.
Yeah, it's a
But
very real,
it
depiction of foster
it
care.
it is. But it's,
Uh-huh.
I was crying on the plane because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, God, like, I hear you. I got the message." I got
Yep.
off the plane, told hu my husband, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do foster care." We were able to hop into classes the next week after I got home. We got our first kids at our house before we even received our license, so
Mhm.
the
Us
need
too.
was
Yep.
there. But the whole time, and I don't know if you experienced this, but my parents, my family, all of our friends, they thought we were nuts, and, like,
Mhm.
they were not, I mean, I wouldn't say not supportive, I would say they were worried. They were
Yeah.
worried that you're too busy ranching, you
Yep.
got these little kids, you're busy, how are you gonna
Yeah,
make it
and what are
work?
you gonna get? That's what we get
Right.
too, like,
Yep.
you
You
can
can't.
control some things with
Yep.
your own kids, like, these kids are
You
just
can't.
thrown into your home, are you ready
Right.
for this? Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
but I remember you talk about "Thy will be done." My dad really came over and was giving me, like, he was telling all these fears, and he was pouring it out to me, and at that point, I just said, "Dad, I don't know. I don't know why we're doing this. You're gonna have to take it to Jesus because it
Yeah.
is his directive. It doesn't make sense to Tyler and I. I wouldn't even peg us as the people that would take in all these kids. Like, we're
Right.
not. We're kinda like, we like things organized and
Right.
relatively calm
And
and,
foster
like,
care is not
have a
organized.
plan, like, we're both these, like, type A
Yeah.
oldest sibling types, and I'm like, "We are
Mhm.
not that." it's just not my stereotype. Like, so I just said, it's Jesus's calling. Like, that's
Mhm.
it. I'm being obedient. I have no choice. Like,
Yeah.
and it was the best thing that's ever happened to us, obviously. Like, God had a plan, but it was just like, it is not my plan. But
Mhm.
I think in society, we're losing that of being able to, any decision I make now, it's like, I have to pray about it. I have to discern about it. And if the Lord doesn't bless it, I have to walk away from it. And I've
Yep.
done it so many times since then that I figured out, hey, God is just a phone call away. He really
Mhm.
is. But you have to be
Mhm.
in constant prayer to be able to discern what is of his will and what is this world trying to distract you. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's what I've learned from foster care, of just
Mhm.
like, phone my friend, phone my father, like
Yeah. It's
he'll make
true.
it clear. You just have to be listening. And
Yep.
so yeah, it's been cool. And I would say in the faith community is very active in answering the call of
Mhm.
foster care. And I'm devoutly pro-life. And so to me, when I hear the arguments on social media about, oh, if a kid isn't aborted, or that they'll end up in foster care, and I'm like, well, wait, I've met wonderful kids in foster care that deserve a
Exactly.
life, and it's up to
Mhm.
us as Christians to answer the call and meet
Yep.
the needs. And I always tell people, if they only had the chance to meet the kids, yes,
Yes.
sometimes it's really tough, but if you
Mhm.
had the chance to meet the kids, you couldn't look away either. And that's
Yeah.
that's how I felt walking into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all that to say, like, that was a lot of rambling. Let's talk about that elephant in the room, the hard goodbyes.
Hard
Let's talk
goodbyes.
about your hard goodbye.
Yeah. So, all of them were hard, right? They were just
Yeah,
different kinds of
I know.
hard. When the 4
Yep.
kiddos left, it was short, it was so sweet, but oh my gosh, it was also kind of unexpected. But knowing that they went to a different place, that they got adopted was beautiful. And I'm so
Yep.
fortunate I was able to still be involved. Our older one that went to a family with older kids that he just meshed a lot with. I actually had a lot of guilt with that one because I kind of facilitated it. There were some safety issues, there's some different things. The ranch is a hard place to live,
It
right?
is.
If you haven't grown up on it and like to understand that, hey, you can't just walk through um, a pen with a mama and her baby. You can't do
Right.
that during having like you
Right.
can't walk right behind a horse. You can't like when we say you have to be careful, please be careful. When we,
Yep.
there's equipment, there's machinery, like there's all these things. And it really got to be very concerning because of some different behaviors, things like that. So I
Yep.
actually kind of pushed that transition a little bit. And I still have guilt about it. But
Mhm.
I kept that relationship with that kiddo. So I would still stop and see him and different things like that. So that was still very helpful. The 19-month or one that we had for that little over a year and a half, that was tough. That was so tough. So I live in the state of Nebraska. There's different, guidelines that and laws and regulations that they follow, but everything's very fluid in foster care. And so um, kind of right, we were just about to the end of hitting that kind of that guideline of, okay, this is when things are supposed to be terminated and all this.
Yep.
It's just such a weird like feeling of, yes, we want this, we want to move forward. We would, of course, we'd love to keep this baby in our home forever. He's been ours. He's been ours for a long time. But also understanding that he's not ours.
Mhm.
And the best place is with mom, depending on the situation, and realizing, educating myself on trauma and some of these different pieces. But it was so hard. So the actual goodbye with him, um, I laugh, not laugh. I smile thinking about it. I think just very bittersweet, like when he actually
Yep.
transitioned home. I remember at the time thinking, okay, I could just envision it, right? The caseworker like coming to our home, packing up all of his things. He'd been with us a long time, and your
A lot of
family, your
stuff.
friends, like, yeah,
Yep.
they're your village. You have to have a
Yep.
village, I think, with foster care. That support
Yep.
is so important. And, so there's just a lot of stuff and personal, emotional stuff and also physical stuff.
Yep.
But I remember envisioning like, okay, the caseworker is going to come take him and put all these things in their vehicle and then they're going to drive away. And my husband and I are going to sit here with our daughter. At the time, we'd had our daughter. In the meantime, she was 6 months old. Um, and then as we were getting closer to it, I just kept getting this pull that that's not how it's supposed to be. And
Yep.
so I just kept thinking, I'm going to take him. I'm going to do this. I'm going to drop him off. And so I did. I put him in my vehicle, or our vehicle, for the last time. My husband stayed home with our daughter. I took him to town. We met mom with the caseworker there as well. And I handed him over to his mom,
Mhm.
which was the worst worst feeling. I mean, oh my, see, I'm gonna cry thinking
I
about it.
know.
That
Well, I
was
knew we would cry. I knew we would. Like,
oh,
I'm like, I
I
can't
know.
even
I was like,
I
gosh,
can't even handle it.
it was the hardest thing in the world though, giving him, giving him away kind of. They become your babies. Like you said, we know you're doing it right. I think when you love them as their own, because they
Yep.
deserve that love and they need
Yep.
that love. But also I remember giving his mom a hug and telling her how proud I was of her because she did
Mhm.
change. I mean, she went from non-existent, we never heard a thing from her, never did visits, nothing, to traveling and making an effort and making it work and making darn sure that she got her kid back and fighting for him again. And I thought, wow, this is different. Now, honestly, I'm probably the only person that could see it in that light initially, but
Sure.
I think that was God softening my heart to it too, knowing. So it was just the craziest thing, though. I think like actually handing him over all of his things, packing them in her vehicle, giving him a hug, giving her that final hug. But oh man, it was
Yep.
hard. It was so hard. And I know that you went through something very similar with your
Yep.
little girl at the
And
same time.
so when was your goodbye? I forget what
Ours was in March of 2021.
2021. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So ours would have been was that before or after you now? I can't I'm trying to picture the timeline.
I know. We talked
Yeah,
so much
yeah,
during the whole thing. It's
I
just
think
such a
mine
blur.
was first. Mine was
Yeah.
first. Mine was the
Yeah.
fall of 2020 was
Yeah.
yep,
Yep.
yep, and yeah, I know exactly how you feel. Like, it was, like a bittersweet. For us, it
Mhm.
was we had the world shut down in March 2020,
Yeah.
and I lost a year's worth of work within a week of that announcement, the 2 weeks to sold
Mhm.
spread and all that jazz, and I remember distinctly sitting at the dining room table crying to my husband, like, my career is over. Like, I'm not speaking. I'm not taking these books to the schools and libraries. Like, what am I
Yeah.
going to do? We have all these bills to pay with the cattle and the land and everything. And I just thought, like, what is my purpose? Like, what is the whole I
Mhm.
remember asking God, like, "What's the whole point of this?" And
Right.
so much good came during that time, of course, but,
Mhm.
because that's his way, right? But
Yep.
within a week of me losing years worth of work is when we got the call for a six-month-old baby, and we called her
Mhm.
Sissy. So Sissy came, and I remember I was like, "Well, okay, God, I see why you cleared my schedule. I get it now,
Mhm. Yep.
I've
Yep.
got an assignment." And so we were just all in, and during COVID, there were no birth parent visits, there were no worker
Mhm.
visits. Like, they dropped this baby off essentially, and we celebrated all of her first milestones and all like her walking and getting her first tooth and all of
Yeah.
these things. And we were celebrating her first birthday party when we got the call that she would leave.
Mhm.
And I just remember, like, people said, "Oh, I could never say goodbye." Well, you're right. Like, I'm not a heartless person. Like, the
Right.
goodbye part, I dreaded it. Like, I could not imagine saying goodbye. And she was going to family, she was reuniting with sisters. It was a good thing.
Mhm.
But in my mind at that time, I was mad at my husband. I was like, "Oh, if we had only taken all the siblings, we would have
Yeah.
had like 8 kids in our house at that point." He's trying to
No big
protect
deal.
us, but I was
Yeah.
mad at Tyler. I was mad at the world. I was mad at the
Mhm.
system, and I literally thought I would die of a broken heart. I tell people that. Like,
Mhm.
I if there was a time I thought I might die, I
Yeah.
really
It's
thought
a
I
it's a pain like you're losing. I mean, it's truly a grief, right? You lose somebody
the
that's been in
death,
your
kinda.
home.
It's
Yeah,
like someone
exactly.
you think you're never gonna see again, and you loved
Mhm.
them with every fiber of your being,
Mhm.
and but you're like my soul sister
Yeah.
because, like, I probably never told well, I've told you this, but, like, I remember you reached out to me, like, in one of my darkest, like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
cry, but, like, crying at night, just so sad
Yeah.
and rocking this baby, and you
Mhm.
sent me a song. It was, "Thy Will" by Hillary
Yep.
Scott, and
Yep.
if people haven't heard it, I didn't realize people listen to this song for all kinds of heartaches in life,
Mhm.
but to me, the lyrics spoke so clearly to what I was going through. I'm gonna stop crying here, but I said, but if I can just read the lyrics because I think it's
Yeah.
just so fitting to, like, the tattoo, the "Thy will be done."
Mhm.
But in the lyrics, she sings, "I'm so confused. I know I heard you loud and clear, so I followed through, and somehow I ended up here. And I don't wanna think, I may never understand that my broken heart" see, I can't even get through
I
it.
know it was
Is
like
part of your plan, and when I try to pray, all I've got is hurt and these 4 words, and that is, "Thy
Mhm.
will be done." And I just would listen to that on repeat and thinking like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, God, this makes no sense. It makes no
Right.
sense that you would have a baby that would even need to be removed from her home. It makes
Mhm.
no sense that people would come from generational traumas where, quite honestly, the mom, I fell in love with the mom too, because it was like, I could just tell she was this hurting person who had been hurt, who had
Yeah.
gone through trauma, who was very likely the kid in foster care herself.
Mhm.
And it was like
Mhm.
only if they had had the tools, the resources, the
And
village,
the
the
love,
love,
right? Yeah.
the just the stability in their home. Like, it's like if somebody could break that cycle, and
Mhm.
so to me, it was like, man, I do feel like I might die. Like, I've taken a
Yeah.
gunshot wound to the heart, but
Mhm.
if I could play even a tiny role of planting a seed of being the mom this baby needed right now in this moment, and maybe just showing her that love, maybe we could break some generational trauma.
Mhm.
Maybe the Lord can do all kinds of things to make ugly things new and
Yeah.
renewed. And I don't know, it was, so you were like an angel on earth, because that you sent me that song like just when I needed it, and I would have my good cry, and then I would
Mhm.
be
Yep.
okay and get back to
Yeah.
mom and my kids. And
Yep. Yep.
but in all that, people listening to this probably hear like a couple moms just like bawling, and they're like,
Right.
don't do foster care, that will
Right,
really piss
don't do
me
it.
off. But
Mhm.
still, would you tell people to do foster care?
Oh, I do in a heartbeat. Yeah. And I just actually had somebody tell me the other day, I was thinking about it and then I heard your story and I couldn't. And I said, no, don't do that. Don't
Right.
do that. Like, if it is on your heart, do it. And I will support you through it. And, it's not, we were just talking kind of before we jumped online. We opted not to renew our license for a few different reasons. We have another kiddo at home. It's just not, it's not in our heart. It's on
Yep.
my heart always and forever. Let's be honest. But
Yep.
we have to have that village. You have to have that support. And
Yep.
and so we didn't renew our license, but I would still encourage anybody to do it because it truly is so beautiful. It is so beautiful to see redemption, right?
Yep.
It's so beautiful to see these parents kind of growing, and it may not always be that way, but then if that's the case and they go to another home to be adopted, see the happiness with those other families as well, and
Yep.
just how well those kiddos can do. It really is just such a blessing. I haven't really got to see our little foster dude since, which is hard, but I'm very fortunate for social media and that I did build that relationship with the mom, and I did
Yep.
that on purpose. I did that very intentionally.
Mhm.
So for both of us, I think. So
Yep.
she knew she could come back to me if she ever needed, and just so I could hopefully have some part in his life. And if that's just seeing pictures on social media, I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get. And that is the most beautiful thing, to see him happy, to see her happy and clean and all the
Yep.
things. Like, it,
Yep.
it really is a beautiful thing to be part of that redemption story too.
Yep. We're so far away from where Sissy lives now, but we get text messages. She just celebrated her fourth birthday, and when she left us, I put our name and address and phone number on like every little thing she owned,
Yeah.
because I just thought someday maybe she'll need me again. Like, I don't
Yep.
care if she's 25 years old and she needs her
Mhm.
other mom, like, I'm still
Yep.
here. And you just never know. The Lord has a way of making things come full circle too. And I just think being brave enough to be obedient when it doesn't make sense is
Mhm.
a true calling. And I would say not everyone listening to this, most people are going to be like, man, I'm not going to sign up to be a foster
Right.
parent. Like, it's chaos. It is
Yeah, it
court
is.
cases and paperwork and dealing
Yeah.
with the system and it's not easy for sure.
Mhm.
But I would say a really tangible way people can support this mission, because no matter where you live in this country, we have kids that are
Mhm.
vulnerable, that are experiencing very hard things, and they need
Yeah.
support. They need people to love them and to be a village. But
Mhm.
take a foster family a casserole, check
Yeah.
in, offer to babysit for an hour or two so that they
Yeah.
can have a break, because sometimes it can be so much. It's such a heavy load that without
Mhm.
just little bits of support, you lose steam really
Yeah.
fast. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, full disclosure, Tyler and I, we have renewed our license, but we haven't taken any case. We adopted a little boy, which is probably just a whole episode in itself, but we adopted a little boy in 2021, and we haven't taken any new cases since. But we feel like we've got 4 kids under the age of 9, and this is our assignment, and we've adopted
Mhm.
it, and now we need to see it through. And not to saying we won't ever take any kids again, but we maybe don't feel that fire that's our assignment right now.
Yeah.
And so I guess in this transition period, probably a lot like you, it's like, how can you continue in that mission field without bringing them into your home, which
Yeah.
is what you're working on now, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So right, probably about the month before or so, our little guy was going home. So we knew he was going to go. It was kind of that transition period. I just kept feeling this pull again that I have to do something. This
Yep.
maybe isn't it, but I have to do something. And my husband and I ranch. We live in Western Nebraska, so very much a cattle country, right? I grew up in South Dakota, so I've grown up around this my whole entire life, and I just get excited even thinking about talking about it because it really is the
Yeah.
coolest thing. So, um, the best thing I think ever birthed of having this experience, and that is what is called Foster Love with Beef. So basically, what this is a program that we started. Honestly, it's kind of crazy how fast it got started. So our little guy left in March. We had everything incorporated and official in April, and I'll explain the program. But we were able to deliver that first beef in October of that same year. So basically, what this is um, we work with the state in the state of Nebraska. Obviously, that's where I live right now. But so we work with the state. And so when a child is placed into a foster home, the state reaches out to me and I reach out to local ranchers in our area, kind of throughout the panhandle, which is probably like 10 or 12 counties. It's a pretty big area. All of Western Nebraska, a big chunk of it. And what these ranchers do then is they donate a roast and 5 pounds of burger to these families. And then we coordinate delivery and we actually give this beef to the foster families. So we've been able to do this now. It's been almost 2 full years of doing it, which is crazy. And by the time this airs, will be over 2 years of doing it. But it's been so amazing to see the growth. So whenever foster families, like I said, get a new placement, they get beef. So they have that good, nutritious meal for these kiddos automatically. There's nothing. There's no like strings attached. It's nothing. It's just literally brought to their doorstep. And then we also do with this just a big like Christmas giveaway. So around Christmas time, every single foster parent, no matter if they have kiddos or not, they are offered this. So they get a roast or burger. A lot of times people are amazing. The people that have helped with this are truly amazing. We had the first year we did it, so 2021, the Christmas of 2021, we had like barely enough to get all the foster parents. Then the last year when we did it, we had just an overabundance to where almost every single person every person got at least a roast or burger. And then they also got one additional item. So maybe it was brisket, maybe it was steaks, maybe it was whatever, just that these ranchers and these our rural communities are just, they're just giving. They're giving out of love and out of their hearts to just provide support and to help out these families and the foster care in a way that they, like you said, maybe you don't want to go and sign up to be foster parents. I totally get it. I totally
Right,
get it.
right.
It's a lot. But this is such an easy way. And honestly, that's what I said from the beginning. I said, how many of us don't have 5 pounds of burger and a roast in our freezers?
Yep.
You don't even know it's gone. So we are working right now on just kind of building our process so we can expand a little bit further. So we just actually had our first delivery a couple weeks ago for a little bit further east in Nebraska. And then our plan sometime eventually is to really expand to other areas. We have, like I said, a lot of connections in South Dakota. So that's definitely something we want to do there. But really just kind of keeping it rural because we're special, right? Rural's a little bit
Yeah.
different. We take care of our own. And I think that's just something that we do. And that has just truly been the most beautiful thing that has come out. Not the most, but one of the most beautiful things I think that's come out of all of this. And it really is amazing the impact, like the tears on these people's faces when I've been fortunate been able to actually meet some of the foster parents where I'm a foster mom myself. There were a little laxer rules, which was really
Yeah.
cool. So I could take this beef to homes, deliver it to them, and just the gratitude and I don't know, just the joy that they had on their faces, just knowing that they didn't have to worry about it. We know costs are rising, right? It's
Yep.
hard to get a roast. People don't get roasts. They buy burger, they buy pork, they buy
Yep.
whatever, keep it, but it's not maybe the best quality. It's kind of the cheaper stuff that they can get. So to have this high quality beef in their homes is just, it's incredible. And it's really just such a beautiful thing. So yeah, it's Foster Love with Beef. And like I said, we're working on growing it. And I'm so excited to see kind of what we're able to do with it in the future too.
Now, is there a Facebook page, website? Where can people
There
kind
is.
of learn more?
Yeah. So right now we're mostly just on Facebook. So again, it's Foster Love with Beef, and we do have a website that we're working on growing. But so right now, I know I've had a lot of people ask, well, we'll donate a quarter beef or a half a beef or whatever, which is amazing. But oh my gosh, I'm like, we're not quite at that capacity yet. I don't know where to
Well,
store it. And
I
how
have
I
a
can do it.
feeling you're gonna get there in real short
I am
order.
too. I know, which would be so cool. But and that's what I actually just have been working with somebody to kind of build a database and build up a website and different things, and even just to have items. Financial donations are amazing because we are trying to branch out. We actually provide a cooler, just a little cooler bag with each of the donations as well. That way the kiddos can use them. We slap our
Yeah.
sticker on them. So So they have stickers, and yeah, so we're looking at some different merchandise and different options with that as well, just to really help the cause and to get it out there, because it's truly amazing. And I feel like we as ranchers, as cattlemen, as farmers, whatever we are in our rural areas, we have a lot to give to, and sometimes I think we just don't know how to do it. So it's just a
Right.
really great, easy way to do that, to help out where we can.
But see, this is why this show was created right here,
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
I get so sick of the news that's talking about how ranchers are destroying the environment and the cows are bad and
right.
all this stuff. And I always say, yeah, we can fight the misconceptions and talk about the science and the research, but at the end of the day, if people just knew who we were in rural
Mhm.
America, in the
Yeah,
ranching community, if they could just meet us and see our heart, they would
mhm.
understand what our intentions were. That it's we
Absolutely.
love the land and the livestock, but
Yep.
pretty much 99% of people I know in this country, this rural community that we belong to, they love people most of all. And
Mhm.
they have a servant heart. They want to do things in their communities to make it a better place. And to
Yep.
me, this program that you've started that was conceived by you stepping into a very hard space, seeing
Mhm.
a problem, understanding and having empathy for both sides, for the kids, the birth parents, and also what it takes to open up your heart and home and
Yeah.
have loss and trauma and all kinds of messy things
Mhm.
come in, and then providing a solution. And that's what this beef is. It's even more than just the burgers and the steaks. It's someone saying to someone else, "Hey, I see you're doing something really
Yeah.
brave and really scary, and it often can feel lonely at times because people don't
Mhm.
understand what you've signed up for here. But we
Yep.
get it. We see you. We appreciate you stepping into that space and helping kids in our community. And to me, it's a full circle thing. I love you for it. I love your heart for it. And I'm just so grateful that you were willing to join the conversation on the show and share your heart with all of us.
I appreciate you letting me join. When I first heard you doing this podcast, I thought, oh, we're gonna have to jump on sometime and
Oh,
just chat, because it's just been amazing. I feel like too, the relationships you build with other foster moms within this foster love with beef. I mean, it's amazing. God put you where you're supposed to be.
he does. He does.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we didn't cry that much. So
I
that's exciting.
know. So yeah, go
Only
us.
a little bit, only a little bit, and if my
Sure.
husband's gonna be listening, he's gonna be like, "Oh, you didn't hold it together," and we'll
Yeah.
just fast forward through that part if it
There you
makes you
go. Yeah.
uncomfortable, but no, but that's what it is, though. It's, when you feel something passionately and your
Mhm.
heart is in the right place, you're gonna see emotion with it. So
Yep.
this is real life, rural America, moms on
Mhm.
a mission to make the community a better place.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, thanks so
I
much for
just love
having
you so
me.
much and so grateful.
It's great to see you. Thank you.